In December, tons of stars will hit the free agency market following the most recent round of WWE cuts, this when their non-compete clauses expire. As we've seen in the past, a WWE firing can mean the end of a wrestler's career, but in some cases, it can be the best thing that's ever happened to the talent, providing them with the chance of a hard reset and the opportunity for a complete rebirth in the wider wrestling world. And there could well be similar stories ahead from this batch of releases. Whilst he was the final name to be confirmed on the latest list of firings, let's get started with former United States champion Matt Riddle. The former UFC star would switch to pro wrestling in 2014, working for the likes of PWG, MLW, and many other top independent promotions across the world, before settling down in NXT 4 years later. It's safe to say that Riddle has a lot of things attached to his name that could prevent another top company picking him up anytime soon, although we do know that prior to signing for WWE, he had an offer on the table from New Japan Pro-Wrestling, something that forced the hand of the Stamford Giant. His MMA-inspired style would no doubt be a great fit for NJPW were they to be bold enough to make him the offer, although he does have the star power to be a major player in AEW, were they willing to give him a shot and face any potential backlash. He could maybe even return to MMA, perhaps for Bellator or the PFL. And honestly, a jump into influencer boxing could also be a smart move financially. A regular cast member of the women's division in modern times, Dana Brooke has failed to reach the heights of women's champion on either brand, although she does have a run with the 24/7 title on her resume. After the 24/7 shenanigans ended, she returned to NXT in June 2023, where she was involved in a series of matches without having a real storyline to sink her teeth into. Having been with WWE for most of her professional career, Dana doesn't have much experience with other promotions. With that said, this isn't necessarily a bad thing, as dipping her toes into other companies would allow her to explore new avenues and show her creativity, with Impact Wrestling perhaps being the ideal place to get regular television time in a thriving women's division. Mansoor is coming off the back of his stint in the Maximum Male Models faction alongside MACE, and previously Max Dupree and Maxine Dupree. More recently, however, the duo would lose their managers, first with Max ditching the gimmick entirely before reverting back into LA Knight, whilst Maxine now runs side by side with the Alpha Academy, with the duo since disappearing from television. Mansoor has addressed the release online, posting a promo taped from his home, with him optimistic as to what the future holds, noting that his career was just beginning. As a multilingual wrestler, Mansoor could help any company expand into the Arab-speaking world, and a notable promotion that he could join is MLW, which airs on beIN Sports, a Qatari-owned broadcaster, with there being potential to expand beyond their English-speaking network if a deal can be struck. One half of the Maximum Male Models and the tag team partner of the aforementioned Mansoor, MACE, has also been absent from television, having not been seen since the WWE Intercontinental Title #1 contendership Battle Royal in May. Since his release, he has revealed that he wants to do an anime-inspired gimmick on something we'll likely see evolve when 2024 hits. He could continue to team up with his real-life friend Mansoor, or start a singles career making a name for himself with his new gimmick, and he may find a home in a Japanese-based promotion such as DDT or Noah, which would be a suitable place to work on such a character. Former leader of Retribution, Mustafa Ali, was recently moved to NXT after several stop-start pushes on the main roster over the years. There, he got himself involved in a feud with NXT North American champion Wes Lee and the later champion Dominic Mysterio, and was in fact scheduled to challenge Dom Dom for the title at NXT No Mercy, but was released before the show. Mustafa has plenty of avenues to explore following his departure from the company, and he may not be as disappointed as others when you consider that he already tried to get a release last year, but his request was denied. Despite his long tenure with WWE, he's never won gold in the company, something that could change if he chases the Impact X Division Championship, or perhaps join New Japan Pro-Wrestling's junior heavyweight division, allowing him a chance to grow his character and work his way up the card. After making a return to WWE as part of Triple H's rehirings of late 2022, Emma immediately challenged for the SmackDown Women's Championship in a losing effort, and things haven't exactly picked up since. Her most recent match was in July, where she lost to Shayna Baszler on Raw in less than 2 minutes, this more than 2 months ago. After posting about her excitement with the news that Elimination Chamber will be in her home country of Australia next year, she later replied to her initial post with "Oops, never mind, I just got got released, with her now on the free agency market. Emma is a veteran wrestler with a lot of television experience, which was actually why she was rehired by Triple H. The now Tennille Dashwood could make a return to Impact, where she was competing before returning to WWE, where she could perhaps pick up her first Knockouts Championship, or alternatively, she could join AEW, where her good friend Saraya is the current women's champion. Tony Khan has been expanding the women's roster in recent times, and adding Dashwood would give the division some added experience. Rick Boogs joined the main roster back in 2021, teaming up with Shinsuke Nakamura, and even challenged for the tag team titles at WrestleMania before being sidelined due to injury. He later returned when he was drafted to SmackDown, with his latest appearance taking place in the Slim Jim Battle Royal at SummerSlam. At 35 years of age, Rick has a lot left in the tank and is exceptionally charismatic and could make an impact in promotions such as Impact Wrestling, no pun intended, or he could even take his throwback gimmick to the National Wrestling Alliance. This would then allow him the on-screen time he needs to continue to get over and establish himself as a television personality. A longtime NXT superstar, ALIYAH, joined the main roster in 2021 after waiting 6 years for that moment. She would go on to make history by beating Natalya in little more than 3 seconds to get the fastest victory in WWE history, and would even win the Women's Tag Team Championships with Raquel Rodriguez, which they lost just 14 days later. This would be the last major storyline of her WWE career, as she was absent from television for the entirety of 2023. Similar to Rick Boogs, she had been part of NXT for quite some time and hadn't gained much experience in a major promotion outside of WWE, although she did have a short run on the independent circuit prior to being signed. Following her release, she could return to the indies to reinvent herself, with her years of performance center training giving her a solid platform to shine before moving up to a more established promotion that can provide some more television time. After a very interesting storyline where he would play his own younger brother Ezekiel, Elias would recently return to his drifter persona but remained unselected in the 2023 draft. He's been missing since the WWE Intercontinental title #1 contendership battle royal, although he did recently resurface on social media, revealing that he's been baptized at the same spot as Jesus Christ himself, with his release perhaps sparking the second coming of the charismatic star. In any case, Elias had become a very popular figure in WWE due to his natural charm, with him having an undeniable ability to hold a crowd in the palm of his hands. I wouldn't actually be surprised to see Elias head to All Elite Wrestling at some point in the future, although given their already bloated roster, I want to be selective over who I choose to become All Elite in this list. With that said, he could shine in any television wrestling promotion, and we're not short of those right now, so let's pick Major League Wrestling as a good suitor, who are known for their tendency to help develop characters and put on great wrestling shows. Riddick Moss, also known as Madcap Moss, was called up from NXT and made a name for himself in a storyline with Happy Corbin in 2021. Recently, he hasn't been involved in any major storylines, with his biggest match being against Gunther, where he came up short after challenging for the Intercontinental title. According to a recent report from Fightful, Moss was actually a Paul Heyman guy backstage and was somebody the Bloodline's wise man selected as a future main eventer when he was in charge of Monday Night Raw, although clearly not everyone in the company agreed. With that said, Heyman of course has an eye for talent, and perhaps Riddick could be one of the surprise packages from this batch of releases. There's a possibility of creating a power couple dynamic between himself and real-life fiancée Emma, who too finds herself on the free agency market, perhaps in Impact Wrestling. After returning to WWE alongside his hit row stablemates B-Fab and Ashante the Adonis, Top Dollar has competed in SmackDown's tag division. He and Adonis would go on to challenge for the tag titles in December 2022 in a losing effort, before spending most of 2023 failing to make a significant impact. After his first release, Dollar only wrestled 3 matches, so it might be possible that he won't wrestle much following this release, instead focusing on his music career, although a jump to AEW to accompany his former hit row stablemate Swerve Strickland as part of the Mogul affiliate is obviously an option to consider, although it would be difficult not to be lost in the shuffle. Shelton Benjamin is perhaps one of the stars with the most untapped potential as a main event player, with him never really breaking out of the mid-card in WWE, despite being tipped as the best in his developmental class that contained the likes of John Cena and Brock Lesnar. Wrestling only 3 times on Raw since WrestleMania, Shelton wasn't involved in any major storylines and failed to win any of his matches, continuing to tag with former Hurt Business teammate Cedric Alexander. When Shelton was first released by WWE in 2010, he spent the next several years making a name name for himself in promotions such as Ring of Honor, New Japan Pro-Wrestling, and Pro Wrestling Noah. In NJPW, he was part of Suzuki-gun and competed in several G1 climaxes over the years, and a return to the promotion could be on the cards, with him no doubt adding to their already talented roster, perhaps even in their American-based New Japan Strong branch. A 19-year veteran of the company, Dolph Ziggler has been a fixture of WWE for almost 2 decades, having achieved varying degrees of success throughout that time. With that said, much like Shelton Benjamin, there's a feeling that his potential was never truly reached, with WWE never willing to go all in on the Hollywood native. Perhaps the most shocking release in this list, Dolph now finds himself on the free agency market, a move that may not disappoint him too much, as Fightful Select have reported that he was ready to leave WWE years ago before being persuaded to stick around. Much like Cody Rhodes, Drew McIntyre, and Matt Cardona, there's a sense that Dolph's release will allow him to spread his wings and reach new heights, with him being the most obvious choice to sign for All Elite Wrestling on this list. There's a ton of dream matches to be had, with a bout with the best bout machine Kenny Omega being one of the most obvious choices. Another destination could also be Impact Wrestling, where he may stand a better chance of becoming a world champion once again. And before you go, make sure you check out 10 facts that MJF doesn't want you to know.